Hello everyone, Revimegas here welcoming you to a honest discussion about Lens Island. Yes, this was a game that recently came out and kind of filled in that niche of survival meets a little bit of builder meets a little bit of farming simulator. But as it is in early access, is it worth spending the 20 odd dollars to pick it up for yourself, or should you be waiting until it gets further along? Now, here are the good portions of Lens Island. First of all, the storage space you have in your backpack. Now, while you can get upgrades to your backpack that increase certain functionality of it, the one good thing about the backpack is that pretty much everything will get siphoned into there. You don't have an inventory in the sense of a chest for items that you can craft with. You basically, if you knock down a tree, those logs and everything will go into your backpack. But there isn't a hard limit on the amount of items you can have in your backpack. So you can have blueberries, you can have the boysenberries, you can have pretty much passion fruit, bananas, anything you want in your backpack. And all of these can be accessed from your backpack. You can pull them out, you can put them onto your hotbar, that kind of stuff. So that's the one good point about the inventory. The other thing that this game does right is it does fill that niche of allowing you to pretty much go into any sort of dungeon. There's the enemies, it's a little bit more refined than a game like Stardew Valley. You're not running into that samey feeling of combat. There's options such as whirlwind attacks, rolling, and that kind of stuff. The combat is a little bit finicky in this sense. Until you get a shield, it's a little bit difficult to actually feel like you're having a good combat experience. Finally, the game does look beautiful. It is an absolute masterpiece looking wise. The game is pretty, trees fall over, everything looks crisp, and I do love the fact that the water is very beautiful. Everything about this game definitely makes you feel like you're on a tropical island with something going wrong. There is the shadow creatures, and honestly, I felt really drawn into the world itself. It felt like, at least the initial spots, it felt like a very living with the monsters. There are a couple of nuances with that in the sense that there aren't a lot of wildlife going along. You're not seeing like deer running through, you're not seeing really a lot of life outside of these monsters and outside of trees falling. Honestly, that's the one minor gripe I have about that. Now, I know I've mentioned a lot of good in this game, but there are some really bad caveats in it. First of all, while I said the inventory space with the amount of items you can hold is fine, the amount that you can have on your hotbar is really limited and actually bad. So, the initial items you will get will be your knife, your axe, and a pickaxe. Those will take up the first 3 out of 4 slots. Now, you obviously can drop off those items, but once they are taken off the quick bar, you have to go to a storage container to pull them back out. They're not stored on you, they're stored in a container. So if you put away a weapon and then you need a weapon later, you're going to have to go find a container to basically grab it out. And this becomes really apparent when you start building more items. Now, you'll end up building some of your crafting stuff such as axes and hammers and watering cans, which are especially needed. But if you take the watering can off, you have to go back to a locker basically and re-grab it to basically use it again. It kind of messes with the flow, and until you upgrade your backpack, this really hurts. And honestly, the upgrade doesn't really do a lot. It adds in 1 extra slot. I haven't seen if there are more, but at least I know the first initial one does that. Secondly, while the night stuff is okay, and there are like actual enemies and stuff to fight, fighting combat is actually a little bit weird at times. If you go with the initial control scheme, which is the mouse to move, this really makes it kind of weird because you're right-clicking to move to a certain location, and Q is still your roll. Now, I haven't actually tried it with the WASD, but the one that they recommend, on strictly speaking, as the one they recommend is the right click to move. It doesn't feel right. Now, they are adding in controller support down the line, but for the purposes of this review, wasn't in place. The other major problem I do have is, like I said, the actual lifelessness of the world. It doesn't feel like people live there. And basically, minor spoiler, until you complete one of the bridges, you don't actually meet anyone. Now, this is a problem because nobody in the world actually feels like they exist, if that makes sense. The characters are very lifeless, they have a little bit of dialogue, but overall you don't care. You don't care who these people are because they really don't seem like they do anything. Now, once again, going forward, they're saying that they are going to add in NPC quests. There's going to be more life with bringing in people, having them, take up residency on the island. And that's cool at all, but that's kind of a hit against it right now. It does seem a little barren, and it really will limit your playtime. Now, overall, here is the big thing with all of it. The game doesn't really have a story right now. There are monsters, you can fight them, you can unlock new stuff. There's achievements to gather, that kind of thing. But you're never really going after a goal per se. It just feels empty. There's no, hey, I need to go fight a monster. There's no real end boss or anything with that in nature. So it is more of a Minecraft-esque game in the sense that you're really just how much do you want to build your little house, do some farming, and unlock all of the gear? If that sounds like something you do want to do, then by all means this game would work for you. However, if you're expecting a deep, rich storyline with interesting characters and all kinds of different, aspects to the game that feel feature complete, the game is not like that right now. In the coming year, they do have a roadmap where it lays out a lot of different aspects that they want to add in. The initial ones are going to be controller support and different localizations, which is all well and good. However, this is a game that, as of right now, while it is a ton of fun to play, there isn't that rewarding aspect of a story. So that's kind of where you're at with this game. I have a hard time recommending it if you do want that story. If you do want to play around with it, it's a ton of fun. I put a good amount of hours into it already, and I still am enjoying it, but it is hard. It would be hard to keep it going for some people. So this has kind of been an honest discussion around Lens Island. If you do enjoy the game, I will have a Steam link in the description. And until next time, this is Red Mega saying I'll catch you later.